peeing
Yeah.
is dependent on you knowing that you have to pee
Okay.
and knowing that there's a place to pee.
Or not realizing it until I've already soaked my pants.
Well, no, then that's not an action.
Hello and welcome to Things We Talk About, a podcast where we have conversations
that matter.
I am your host, Randall Thomas. With me across the table is my dear friend,
Lazarus Kane.
I love it that you wait. It makes me so happy.
Well, you'd yell at me if I didn't.
I know. You're right. So let me talk to you about something, man. Something that's really been pissing me off.
Okay.
I know it's not a Randall's Rant episode because this is not for just
one of those might get released at some point.
This is not just for the patrons. This
Okay.
is for everybody.
Okay.
What really has been bothering me is like I have a group of friends that we hang out as a group.
You have many groups of friends.
But one group, like I have many friends, but really only one group of friends that I
Right.
hang out with as a group.
Sure.
And
A circle of friends.
A circle of friends, a circle of whatever. People that
Yes.
I'm close to that I care about.
Okay.
And I assume care about me too. I would like to think that they do. We'll see how many people
If
show
not-
up
if-
when I ask them to help me move.
Well, yeah. If not, they do a real good job of faking it.
Thank you. And that's half of life.
Yeah.
Faking it. So I get, you nod because there's
No, there was
absolute wisdom in
there was
that.
a study done, and I'll find it and put it in the show notes. But basically, some large portion, some lion's share. They interviewed CEOs, and like the lion's share of them felt that they had no idea what they were doing,
Mhm.
and could not fathom how like their boards and like their colleagues had not figured out the fact that they had no idea what they were doing.
Didn't like the CEO of Yahoo get fired after X amount of years for lying about his college degree?
I don't know. I don't know about that. It sounds reasonable.
Yeah, something I would do.
Of course, like if you have a track record, though,
Dude,
I don't know why.
I actually tried
Really?
once upon a time to go online and try to find like defunct colleges from other countries that I could say I got a degree from.
Yeah. Interesting.
So anyways, I was hanging on my group of friends, and this group of friends I try to keep things surface level, and like talk about video games, talk about movies, and just make jokes and share stories, and have a good time.
Yeah.
This group of people, individually, it's not so bad, but like as a group, I try to stay away from like socio-political or like anything that matters.
Really, yeah. Anything that matters. Yeah.
Especially since the election.
Yeah.
Because everyone's got an opinion now. Everyone's got a very loud and angry opinion.
Yeah.
On either side, everyone has just this thing where they can't listen to anything the other person's trying to say.
Sure.
Again, one-on-one, I'll listen to what you got to say. Even if I disagree with you, I'll listen to you.
Yeah.
And I'll share my points, and we'll have like an adult conversation. But
That's
when
the goal.
this mob mentality comes out, when it's a group of people and they feel like they have to prove their worth to this group of people. So what they do is and I know them because they're on my Facebook, and I know what they're saying because it comes up in my Facebook feed, and it'll say, this person has shared this quote or this article, and I'll read it.
Yeah.
And we get them together, and I'll bring up something serious, or usually it's somebody else that brings it up because I try not to, or I'll change the subject when it starts to go down that direction. So what ends up happening is I'll have one of my friends say something sarcastic about our president's new thing, and understandably because it is frustrating.
Yeah.
And then someone who thinks the opposite of that will argue a counterpoint. But this person A that brought it up posted something on Facebook that was a news article that they read that someone else had posted on Facebook
Oh, great.
from like the Huffington Post, or it was like BuzzFeed or something like that. Just an opinion piece.
Yeah.
And then someone else, that counterpoints person B, reads something from Fox News because they shared that, which is equally as silly, some opinion piece from Fox News, and regurgitate some counterpoint from that.
Yeah.
And it's like, here goes like my friends, and I just want to hang out and have a good time and crack jokes.
Yeah.
And now it's become like this battle of this stupid intelligence, like this fake knowledge that people have access to now. I don't know what else you'd call it. Maybe some sort of fake intelligence, some sort of artificial. I don't know.
That is the hammiest, fistiest change to the subject that I have that we have had so far.
So what are we talking about today, Lazarus?
I truly shudder to think what you'll be like, 80 episodes from now. Here's the subject. Okay. No. So today we're talking about artificial intelligence.
Boom.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's when your friends get together and they read opinion pieces and pretend like it's actual knowledge.
Well, no, but that's one of the big things that we're going to talk about is what is that? Like, what does that even mean? Because a lot of people, there's a lot of assumptions, and we hear it, things we talk about, like to go delve into the usual assumptions that people have around seemingly common concepts and where they come from and things like that. So this is actually going to be, this is our first series, so it's going to be a series on mind, philosophy of mind, theory of mind, yada, yada, yada. And I'm super stoked. Normally, when you're doing a philosophy course or instruction or something like that, you don't hit AI until like 2/3 of the way through. But fuck it.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Yeah, no. So yeah. So that having said that, there is some stuff that we're gonna have to go over first. Just some vocab based concept stuff. But other than that, I know you're capable of handling it, and if you can handle it, certainly our listeners can.
Well, listeners, last episode, you might remember me saying something about how I don't care much for philosophy. I find it to be kind of boring. It's not really my thing.
Yeah.
And because I said that, Lazarus Kane says, "Oh, I've got a great idea. Let's do a whole series about the philosophy of mind."
Well, I love to see you suffer. And if I can do it for the enrichment of our listeners, then so much the better.
All right. So this is Philosophy of the Mind, episode...
Of mind, yes.
Philosophy of...
Mind.
Of a mind?
There's no the mind. It's philosophy of mind.
Well, that doesn't sound like correct English.
No, because it's like philosophy of science or philosophy
Of the science.
No,
Okay.
no. It is correct English, and you are wrong.
Whatever.
Okay. Anyway, so yeah, so that's where we're gonna go. That's where, unless you've got anything else, we can jump right in.
Do I have anything else?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
All right. Well, seeing no takers. Let's see. Okay, so let's talk about intelligence.
Okay.
Like, what is that?
From what I've been taught,
Mm-hmm.
intelligence is a talent more than a developed skill.
Mm-hmm.
It is something that you're either born with the capacity of learning, or you are not
Mm-hmm.
as well as someone who has a higher intellect.
Yeah.
Now, there are people with high intelligences that are huge idiots because they don't really spend their time wisely.
Sure.
And there are people with low intelligence that are very, and I've talked about this before, that are very studious and they're
Mhm.
erudites
Yeah.
because they read a lot and they sound smart, but truth is the intellect isn't there.
Yeah, yeah. So, that's good. Not exactly what I was asking. And also wrong. It turns out that if you take IQs as a measure of intelligence, and they're not perfect measures of intelligence,
Of course not.
but they'll give you something. They can actually shift in either direction. I think it's 2 points day to day.
It's like
enough
like your weight. Whether you poop or don't poop, you can fluctuate 2 to 3
Yeah,
pounds.
yeah, basically.
So your brain has to take a
Yeah,
poop.
depending on how like healthy,
Depending on what kind of crap is in your brain.
yeah, pretty much. Depending on whether you're feeding and walking your brain,
Yes.
Determines whether or not it becomes stronger.
Have you ever
better.
taken an intelligence test, like an IQ
I
test
have.
before?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Like an actual
yeah,
extensive
no,
one? Okay.
That's one of the ways. I assume there are more, but it's pretty much the way that I've found ADHD tests done.
I took it when I was 17. They gave me the adult one when I was 17, and it was like 3 to 4 hours.
They give you the ways or the. Do you remember at all what test
It was a long time ago.
Okay.
I cried like at the end of it. I was so frustrated.
Oh yeah,
because it's
Well,
part of
that's
it's like
the point.
a motor test.
Yeah.
And I have no feeling in my right hand.
Oh.
And they had me try to pick up these nails, like these little thin nails from the table. I don't know why or what that has to do with my intelligence.
Yeah.
But like I physically cannot do that. Like I don't have the feeling in my hand. And it was humiliating, and I was so frustrated with myself that I broke down in tears.
Wow.
It was a horrible experience.
So that is not the test that I am familiar with, but there are lots of them.
Yeah, I would imagine.
But no, the point is the reason, and the evaluation for ADHD is usually around like 6 hours. And it's 6 hours of interviewing you and then doing a different tests and stuff like that. And the idea is to eliminate every possible other solution to why you are having these problems. So like you could have dementia. Like that's why you always lose things, because like you have memory loss.
Yeah, and then or they test you if you're a huge fucking idiot.
Yeah,
And that's why you lose things all the time.
Or depression, or like
Right.
lots of other things.
Yeah,
right?
depression would be a big one, I would imagine.
Yeah, and that's why you don't get anything done, because you have major depression.
Right.
Stuff like that. And so, but it's sustained mental effort over 6 hours.
Okay.
And then by the end of that, between the interviews and stuff like that, they'll be able to tell how well you've done. Usually, like if you are in school, they'll have you bring a unofficial transcript, because if, like me, you score particularly well and bring in a lackluster GPA, that's a real clue. They'll be like, ooh, these two things should not belong to each other. So anyway, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We are here to talk about intelligence.
Yes. So you told me I'm wrong of what my thought is intelligence.
Yeah. So,
I like how you led up to that too. You didn't just say like, I like what you're saying, but it's wrong. You're like, what you're saying sounds good, blah, 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 but it's wrong.
Yeah.
Like you lead up to
it's
the wrong.
But yeah.
You don't just tell me I'm mistaken. You paint a picture first
Absolutely.
for me to like, and then you destroy it in front of my face. It's like I pay you to draw a picture of my family portrait, and then you're like, and it's beautiful, and then you show it to me, and then you light it on fire in front of my face.
I was gonna go with give you a nice soft bed, all made up, nice for you to lay in, and then I just dump ice water on the whole thing.
Okay. I heard you say you're just gonna dump, and I started
really
to laugh,
worrying.
thinking like, what? Someone pooped the bed.
Really. Anyway, so no, like yes, intellect is a thing, but intellect is not the same thing as intelligence.
I always thought it was.
It's usually used that way.
Okay.
Right.
But similar to richness and wealth.
Correct.
Like episode 1, they're not
Correct.
usually. They are sometimes the same thing, but often not.
Right. When we're getting down and we're really talking about like context, and especially with philosophy, distinctions like that really matter. So I think like it would be fair to say that intellect could be the degree of intelligence that you have, right? But intelligence is this other thing. And so let me see. Okay. So obviously the field is in motion, right? Things are changing. I'll go into like how these views have changed. Anyway, the point is that basically intelligence involves understanding language, the ability to reason logically, the ability to solve problems, and to be able to construct plans to satisfy goals.
Okay.
Goals here means like an aim. Like you're like you can do like 10,000 things to do this one thing.
Okay.
Right. And that's an important distinction, because if it was only ever about what you were doing then you could not plan. You could not create plans. Right. And I think that if we're going to talk about anything that's intelligent, that's super important. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Moving right along. What would you expect, like, an artificial intelligence to be like? How do you see it and know?
I don't know how to answer that question.
Yeah.
Because something I mentioned before, philosophy is a discussion of things that don't exist.
Well, no, I'm
That's not a thing.
No, but okay, let's take a few steps back and talk about intelligence again, right? You're like, you see it and you know, right?
When I see intelligence.
Intelligence, yeah,
Okay.
like that something is intelligent. Usually, it's like, a particularly intelligent dog, or or something like that. Like
Okay.
it has intelligence as opposed to something that does not. So how do you know that? What are the markers?
The markers, for me, I mean, it's contextual. Are we talking about an animal? Are we talking about a person? What are we talking about?
How do you know that something is, we'll say, people smart?
People smart? The ability to reason.
Okay.
You ask a tough question, they respond, then you ask a question about that. And it's able to, I guess, consider their thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And then consider your thoughts.
Yeah.
And have a reasonable discussion about those thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is if a machine was able to do that.
Okay? So I'm gonna stop you right there.
Okay.
The issue I have with that is
Sure.
that machines are programs, and the algorithms that exist on those machines
Mm-hmm.
are designed by a human
Yes.
to be able to answer any variable
Correct.
that's pre-programmed,
Correct.
but the question's asked.
Correct.
Therefore, it's not intelligence.
We will get to that. So originally that's all AI meant.
Really?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's a program.
Like accepting like science fiction, like Azamov and stuff like that.
Sure,
The real
yeah.
science and stuff like that. All AI was originally intended to be consultants. Basically, was the term that was used in the literature, and so the idea was that it was essentially this thing that has an extensive knowledge base, but you can speak in natural language to it, and it will understand idioms and things like that. It will be able to reply to you.
Well, by that degree, the Siri, Cortana, the Amazon Broad, like they're all artificial
Alexa.
intelligence.
Correct-ish.
By that,
they certainly make you think that they're artificial intelligence.
I don't think artificial intelligence exists, but by
Correct.
that definition
Yeah.
of all it is it can
So
offer information.
right. It's like the in Mass Effect. The
EDI.
EDI.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So that
Hal from Space Odyssey 2001.
Yeah. Hal toes the line. They think Hal. So like the term I use is simulacra. And so singular is simulacrum. And so a simulacrum is this thing that looks like something, walks, talks, sounds, and smells like something, but is not this thing. It's like a puppet. Like
Yeah, I
an
get it.
conceptually complex
Yeah,
puppet.
when people have explained and had this conversation with me before, I dismiss what they're saying by saying something like that. No
Yeah.
matter how complicated you make this program, it is not a person.
Yeah.
It's a program.
Edie is a simulacra. They thought Hal was a simulacrum, but it turns out that it was not.
Yeah, and that's what happened.
Yeah.
He kept asking Dave what he's doing.
Yeah. And like it was able to essentially commit a zeroth law violation, which refers to Asimov's 3 laws of robotics. Suffice it to say, it is
Can't hurt a person.
Yeah, but a zeroth law violation allows you to
God.
essentially. So in iRobot.
I was gonna say my buddy's dad, because that's what you were quoting. Was
Yeah.
His laws of robotics is from iRobot.
Yeah.
I saw that movie with my buddy's dad, who was an Isaac Asimov's fan. I've talked to you about this friend several times.
Yeah.
And we all went together because I'd read The Foundation by that point. I was an Asimov fan, and he
Right.
took his son, took me, took my brother, and the other son as well. We all went, and I was expecting like this deep, borderline philosophical movie that's about the gradual overtaking of robots that's more to help mankind than anything else, and mankind doesn't even realize this gradual overtaking,
Right.
which is what the book is.
Yeah.
No, it was just a dumb action flick, like a mindless action flick.
Well, be that as it may, iRobot. So Vicky. Spoiler alert. Vicky locks all the humans in their apartments.
Yeah.
that's a zeroth law violation. Basically, the whole point is that robots are supposed to protect humans, and the zeroth law violation is the artificial intelligence has come to the conclusion that the only way to truly protect humans is you also have to protect them from themselves.
Yeah, I mean that is Skynet from Terminator. When they launched Skynet, the idea was it was an AI that was designed to protect humanity. So when they turned it on, you find this out in the third movie. But when they turned it on, their desire to protect meant the only way to protect humanity from itself is to kill humanity.
That's an interesting leap.
No, it's fiction.
No, it's similar to Brainiac.
I don't know what that
is. He's a Superman villain. It is a Superman villain, and it is the original Superman villain. It's what destroyed Krypton. Basically, Brainiac goes from world to world, absorbing all of the world's knowledge, and then destroys the world. Because Brainiac was meant to hold all knowledge, and if Brainiac leaves, then that world will create new knowledge. And so can't have that.
Okay, was Brainiac a program or just a really weird...
Brainiac was... so there's a difference. So you have strong AI and weak AI. And strong AI is your Brainiacs, your Vickies, stuff like that. Where a weak AI is your Simulacra.
Okay.
And so Brainiac is a strong AI. It does most of the governing of Krypton.
Okay.
So that the Kryptonians are free due to science. Yeah. At any rate. So anyway, AI were meant to be consultants. They were not meant to be partners. They were not meant to be anything else but, essentially a book, right?
Yeah.
Or a guide or something
Sure.
like that. They couldn't actually come to any conclusions. You ask them and they would answer.
That's weird that was the definition of artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Because by that definition, a program with access to Google is an AI.
Right. And you're not wrong. It is a weak AI, and the term is less artificial intelligence. The term that's being used is called machine learning.
Yeah, but a program that's been programmed into the machine to learn new things.
Right. So yes, it is, and they would not be incorrect to say that.
Like when I've written,
Still.
I write bots for a video game that I play to play it when I don't feel like playing it.
Sure.
To grind through experience, and my buddy and I do that, and it's basically it reads the pixel on the screen that makes an action, and based on the reaction of the pixels on the screen, it chooses between A, B, and C that it will do next. And depending on the variables that happen from that, it'll expand out between all the way up to X, Y, Z.
It has a name.
A script?
No, that method has a name.
And that's how programs work.
Yeah. Anyway, I forget what it's called, but anyway. Yeah. So, AI, if that program then remembered its results,
Right.
and then got better at farming that area,
It would
or
learn
farming in
basically
general.
from what
Yes,
it's doing.
and then it would be fair to call it artificial intelligence.
But the algorithm is still programmed by a programmer.
Sure.
'Cause that kind of a logarithm for self-learning, like when you play chess with a computer,
Mm-hmm.
they have algorithms in them that will, based on
Right.
what you move, it'll learn how you play.
But unless you're playing Deep Blue or Watson or something like that, that computer, your opponent will not get better at playing you.
But there
every
are
time.
I'm saying there are algorithms that do that,
Yes, absolutely.
and that makes it an AI. That just makes it a complicated program.
No, it makes it. Well, what's the difference?
I don't know. You tell me. I'm asking you.
No. Yeah, no. So it's weak AI. It's not strong AI. It's weak AI.
So just a really good program is weak AI.
Just a really good. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, theoretically, even strong AI is just a reasonably advanced program.
What I've learned through more contemporary science fiction.
Yeah.
AI is mostly when a device becomes self-aware.
Sure.
That's what I've learned.
Yeah.
And so I've always said, well, that's not possible.
Yeah. So we're gonna get there.
Okay.
And so I am promise you, I am gonna deal with
All of this.
but it's a program. You
Okay.
know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
I do have something for that. But like I said, there's some stuff we're going to have to go over first.
Okay.
So for strong AI, one of the things, so you're talking about becoming self-aware, right? So what you mean, and you're not wrong for saying it became self-aware, but what you mean is that it has gained agency. And agency here is defined as the ability to sense one's environment and independently act upon it.
Okay.
Right? And essentially to choose to do so. If you do not have agency, you cannot choose to do so.
Right. You're programmed to do so.
Yeah.
And even if the programs have an infinitesimal amount of variables, it's still a program, and all of those variables have been programmed in advance.
So, so in order for it to be considered agency, it requires you to be able to have purposeful, goal-directed activity. Like you are working towards something. You are resolving something, you are whatever. So essentially you have to have free will. And which is important. We're not talking about philosophy of free will, but just some notes in the margin, stuff like fatalism, like you are always destined to fail, or like whatever. Things are written. Determinism is your fate is written in the stars, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Sure. Yeah,
right.
Predestination.
Yeah. You are on you are on the rails. Both of those.
Calvinism.
Yeah. Both of those eliminate agency.
Yeah.
As do things like mind control in fiction and things like that, and real life, I guess, and blackmail.
Okay.
So because you are not choosing these things, you have become an extension of someone else's agency.
Okay.
So beings with agency are called actors, because they act on things.
Yeah, it's a strange term, since when I think of actor, I don't think of someone who chooses to act on things.
Well,
they do what the script says.
Imagine that they're acting upon the scene. They are changing the scene, right?
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
To me, an actor is
Yes.
the opposite of that.
Yeah.
It's someone who behaves based on the script, which is exactly what a program without agency does.
Yeah. So an actor, in this case, you can. So an actor is someone who is something that is capable of action.
It's a good distinction.
Yeah. So, and what's really important for that determination is what it does, not how it does it. So that sort of like kind of feeds into, but it's just a program. It's just really a really complicated program.
Sure.
You're talking about like how it came to the conclusions, not what it's doing. Once it has those conclusions. Yeah. Let's see. And so, in fact, I can, if I were, if I had a couple doctorates or whatever, I could predict how you or anyone else could act in a given situation. I could actually write a formula for it. It's called an agent function. There is an entire branch of mathematics devoted to this, called game theory.
Who are the mathematics?
Who are the mathematics?
That are devoted to it.
Bruce Bueno de Mesquita is a big deal. I've read a couple of his books.
Okay.
It's
cool.
a thing. It's like psychohistory.
You're looking at me once again. You're looking at me
Foundation.
like I know. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. For our listeners who haven't read Foundation, psychohistory is a concept created by Isaac Azamov that says that groups of people can be predicted. The movements and choices of groups of people can be predicted just like you can predict the movements of gases.
Right.
And while you cannot predict the movements of any individual molecule of gas, you can predict the whole.
Right.
The same is true using psychohistory in people.
What was the name
so long
of
as they don't know
the guy in the Foundation series? I forget his name.
Oh, the psychohistorian,
Yeah.
the guy who invented. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't remember. So he. But yeah. So as long as they don't know they're being observed. Game theory is all about agent functions. It's all about like putting together formulae to figure out what a group of people is going to do, stuff like that. But game theory states that an agent will always act to maximize the satisfaction of its desires.
Okay. Like a person.
So it will always, so this we will call acting rationally,
Okay.
right? To act rational is to act in the
Best
your
interest of
best
yourself.
interest for
Right.
yourself. Yes. So there is sort of another thing that's like a semicolon and then
Sure.
thing that's gotten tacked on is sometimes that involves responding, like acting in your best interest according to what you believe, like based on the information you have at the time, right? So you may act in a way that is not in your best interest, but you thought it was.
Okay.
Everything that you saw and heard and stuff like that told you that it was. That does not mean that you acted irrationally in that moment, right?
Sure.
That's important. So
Because I mean, you could have a moment that it's not directly in your best interest, but it's in you desire the best interest of someone else before your own. Therefore, it's still in your best interest to put the other person first.
yeah, exactly. And or like there are 3 doors out of this room.
Yes.
2 of them will kill you. Everything that you have seen and heard in this room tells you that it is the door on the left. It is not the door on the left. But you choose the door on the left because that is the information that you're working with.
Sure.
You have not acted irrationally by choosing the door on the left.
Right.
Okay. So agency is really interesting because once it gets involved, it allows agents to wonder, should this have happened? Like the example in the literature that I use is that a comet impacts Jupiter. Shoemaker-Levy 9 impacts Jupiter, and so a human is able to wonder, should that comet have, like, is there a reason that happened? Like, even though, like, there's no reason. Like,
No, there's not.
There's no human choice involved whatsoever.
Right.
Right.
No reason.
Right.
Okay.
And so agency allows for that to happen.
Okay.
Which,
Scared me for a second.
yeah, no, its agency allows us to wonder that.
Okay.
Which is important because it allows us to question what we know.
Okay. So you know what I'm wondering? If you have intelligence, any intelligence at all, any intelligence whatsoever, what would you do? Would you donate to our Patreon?
Yes, that's where I thought you were going with that. Yeah.
We'll be right back.
Hey listeners, let me tell you about how to help us help you become more informed and more entertained.
Yeah, so go to our Patreon page and take a look at what we have to offer. We appreciate you joining our conversation and in the process helping us get better equipment, better content, and provide you with even more content.
Not only that, the Patreon has a tiered system of rewards that lets us give back to those who give more. We've got a ton of things planned as rewards, from unscripted before and after recordings of spontaneous conversations to conversations that try and get Randy to actually read something for a change, with interesting and hilarious consequences if he doesn't, to Randall's Rants, where I try to see just how easy it is for Randy to fly off the handle for basically no reason.
Here's a hint, it's pretty fucking easy. Remember, by becoming a patron, you are directly assisting in the growth and ability for us to move us one step closer to providing more and better content, and soon enough, do it full time.
Aw, yeah. So, to learn more, go to patreon.com/TWTAPATREON. That's patreon.com/TWTA Patreon to learn more about our goals and what we've got to offer.
Thanks for spelling it out for us, buddy.
Okay.
And we're back.
We're back. So I just wanted to, I'm going to re-say this because I think it's worth saying. Randy was telling me that he was genuinely worried when about this topic.
I was.
Yeah, because you want to go ahead and tell
Yeah,
everything?
because I hang out with some stoners. I have pretty much my whole life. And a lot of people who are stoners feel like they become philosophers. And they look at the sky and they say, yeah, but what even is, like, the atmosphere, man?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is even a thought?
Yeah,
you know?
what
like,
is a
what's
thought?
What's the thought?
Can we
man?
ever really know anything?
Can we ever know, like, are we even doing this right now, or are we just, like, projections of someone's dreams somewhere? Like,
Yeah.
And that kind of shit really frustrates me.
So-
and I hate those conversations.
You hate sophistry,
Sophistry.
which is
A sofa.
No, sophistry.
That's where the armchair psychologist. It's the arm sofa psychologist.
No, sophistry is just talking about stuff to sound smart,
Yeah,
but not actually smart.
That's how I led this podcast off. People that read shit think they're smart. They say it because they feel like they sound smart, but they really have no knowledge.
So the term for that is sophistry.
Artificial intelligence.
Sophistry.
Okay.
What my response was that these people that you're talking about, they are armchair philosophers.
Yes.
Whereas now we were dealing with actual philosophy.
Right.
And it turns out
it's not as bad as I thought.
It's not as bad
so
as he
far.
thought.
We're only 30 minutes in,
but
ladies and gentlemen.
we're on the improvement. We're on the up. We're on the up and up. An action. So we talked about agency. We talked about actors. An action is a behavior caused by an agent in a particular situation. Okay. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
It's exactly what you would expect it to be. It's real technical, but it's
a no duh.
Yeah, exactly. It's so essentially the agent's desires and beliefs, what you want and what you know about your situation, cause you to do something, lead to, quote, bodily behavior, lead you to act on your environment.
Okay, so
that is an action.
Okay, so if I drink a lot, it makes me have to pee?
No. Yes, but no.
Okay.
Drinking a lot, yes, is an action. A series of actions. But the having to pee, like the things that cause you to have to pee are not an action. Not in the sense that we're talking about.
Okay.
But you peeing is you acting upon you knowing you have to pee and like wanting to pee.
I don't always know it, man. Yeah. Depends on how much I drink.
Yeah. So like you peeing is dependent on you knowing that you have to pee.
Okay.
And knowing that there's a place to pee.
Or not realizing it until I've already soaked my pants.
Well, no, then that's not an action. That's the lack of an action.
But it's my body's action. But
correct.
It's not a cognizant.
Right. Exactly.
Cognizant,
it is not. It is not arise from agency. So it is. I'm not sure. There is a word for it. Essentially, something.
Okay.
A thing
pissing your pants.
A thing. Yes.
Is the word for it.
A thing that happens but is not an action. So yeah. Speaking of having to pee and bodily processes and stuff like that, there is a concept from sociology called an embedded agent.
Okay. I thought you were going to have a punchline for that, but apparently not.
No. So no, it also shows up in biology.
Okay.
And so the idea is that an actor that basically affects a larger body, whether it can or can't act. Okay. Essentially. So
it's like the movie Hairspray, where the dude's hanging out with John Travolta, who has a larger body. And the other guy didn't do a very good job. He can't act very well.
Not quite. Like, usually it's an embedded agent is the culture of a local group.
Okay.
Or something like that.
Sure.
Or like the group thinks stuff like that.
Yeah, the social norm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right, but that enables and constrains, or like an elected leader or something like that.
Sure.
So we went over the aspects of intelligence. Yeah. Okay. So because AI, we're getting back to consultants.
Sure.
Okay. Because AI originally consultants, free will wasn't relevant. They didn't talk about it. It was like, as far as I know, like it wasn't part of the conversation because it didn't matter. It was irrelevant. So yeah, they were. We think of AI as partners now, like something that's helping you do your job.
Yeah,
that was not the case then. And so the sentence that I came across in the literature, which I like, is why should a calculator need to be able to choose anything?
You asked me why?
Yeah,
it shouldn't.
Exactly.
No,
exactly, and that's
have to.
And that's to elaborate for our listeners. Like that's why free will never entered into the equation, because these things don't have to think; they just have to give you the answer, just like a calculator gives you, 48 times 392. It doesn't choose to give you the answer. It just, I have no idea.
Where'd you get the number
I'm not
from?
a mathematic.
Well, where'd you get the number from?
I picked it randomly in my head.
Okay, that's quick.
Yeah. Fortunately, I operate a few steps ahead in my brain.
Okay.
By the time it hits my mouth, it's finished, usually. hopefully.
That's...
Okay.
That's what he said, joke.
So yeah, so you have this state of AI, right? And you also have other branches of philosophy. Like, so right now, AI isn't philosophy of mind. It's like philosophy of computation, right? And stuff like that, computer science. In this, what we're talking about, like the 70s and the 80s.
Right.
But then philosophy of language, which is a thing, develops this thing called speech theory.
Okay.
And you would think that something like philosophy of language would have come up with something like speech theory a bit sooner, but whatever.
Okay.
So what speech theory does, and maybe it did, maybe it had other things that predate this, and this is just what we're using now. Speech theory breaks communication down into specific pieces. Up to 3 basic pieces, usually 2. They are locutionary, illocutionary, and perlocutionary.
Yeah, you lost me, man.
Yep. That's okay. I had never heard these words before either, so that is why I made sure to put them in here. So a locutionary act, quote unquote, is the actual speech portion of the communication. It is the things that you are saying.
Okay.
The actual words.
Do you know what part of the brain the speech comes from?
The speech center?
You know what lobe in the brain that is? Because of the P.
The prefrontal cortex?
No, parietal lobe.
Okay. There we go.
Cool.
There you go. See, you know things.
Don't tell anybody.
So then you have the illocutionary act, which is the
sick.
Yeah, I mean it would be because it's the force of the speech, right? So it's what you want to happen.
Makes speech your bitch.
Or the person that you're talking to, your bitch. So it's the like quote unquote the chosen intended social significance.
Okay.
So which is like you're promising something, you're ordering someone, you're bequeathing something. Bequeathing. Yeah, which is willing something to someone, like after you die. It can also be something like nominating or sentencing, which is kind of interesting, I guess, if you're a nerd, because the act that's occurring is the actual illocutionary act. So like instead of the illocutionary act being like you order someone to do something and then they do something, the act occurs after that, right? The actual thing happens.
So if you order that person to go stick a fork into a toaster when it's on, is that electrocuted?
They would be electrocuted, yes,
okay.
But not quite.
Okay.
But I think in electrocuted, I think actually means communication of electricity.
Okay.
Right. So you are creating this link between you and the electricity, right?
Okay.
Zap.
Yeah.
Same thing. Same root word, right? So anyway, not that it's even relevant,
It's
but
not.
when you say you order someone to go put a fork on a toaster, the thing that happens is the fork gets put in the toaster. Whereas if you nominate someone or sentence someone to something, the act is you nominating or sentencing. There is no second part to it.
Okay. After that, it's out of your hands and becomes someone else's.
It becomes something else. Yeah, like the act, the speech cycle is over.
Yeah.
And so there's possibly like this perlocutionary is getting someone to do or realize something, whether you intended to or not. So it's like persuading, convincing, scaring, enlightening, inspiring.
Right.
Blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
Okay. So put that on a shelf. It's going to be relevant. So then we get to the 90s. That wacky 90s where everything changes. So we talked about paradigm shifts a couple episodes ago.
Sure.
I think.
We did, yeah. We've actually talked about it a few times, but yes.
Yeah. But we specifically referenced it a couple episodes ago. But so here's where paradigm shifts get really interesting, get fancy or whatever. Like so philosophy is not, each kind of philosophy, all knowledge does not exist in a vacuum. right? All knowledge is going to be affected by all other knowledge. Could be.
Potentially.
Yeah. And so what happens is the advances in philosophy of language, specifically speech theory, hit philosophy of mind. And what you end up having, and when it hits that, then it basically allows AI to step into philosophy of mind. So basically, even in the 90s, AI was still modeled on like the consultant idea.
That's weird because Red Dwarf, the show, came out
Right.
in the 80s,
Right.
and that was way more than a consultant.
Sure. It may have been a really good simulacrum, or even still, like, that's sci-fi. There was not...
Yeah,
like,
because even like Star Trek and stuff, the robot dude.
Yeah. So sci-fi
Yeah.
starts at the end and works backward, whereas philosophy starts at the beginning and works forward,
Okay.
as does science. And so the idea, usually philosophy is the thing that links the two.
Yeah, I was going to say, I like the fact that you separated philosophy from science.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. Philosophy is purely theoretical.
Correct.
Right? That's why everything is called theory,
Yeah.
right? But it is philosophy that allows us to essentially build more science to hopefully get
Yeah.
to that
What-
science
what if-
fiction.
What if we tried this?
Exactly.
It's a philosophical
And what does
question.
this mean? Like, how would we know that we have succeeded in doing this thing? That's why I ask you, like, what does it look like? You
Right.
know, what does it mean? What does it mean? Double rainbow. So anyway, 2 papers came out, both in '95, which they changed the game. They take elocution, which is the force of the speech,
Right.
and say that elocution requires a choice. In order to elocute, in order to
Okay.
have force in your speech, right? You must. So what I said was it has a chosen social significance.
Sure.
So in order to do that, you necessarily must choose to do so.
Okay.
Right. And so if AI consultants are capable of advising you or something like that, be able to choose a social significance, then they must have agency, necessarily.
You think so? And even if the program was written that way?
Because then
like-
it's not choosing, right? The whole point is that the AI is supposed to be able to choose something and give it to you and be like, this is the best option. And hand
How
it
is
to
the
you.
program written like that? I guess based on like previous experience. I mean, we already have like AI in video games and stuff.
Yeah.
Make decisions based on how you play your game.
Right. And so actually, I have that. I have stuff for that.
Sure.
There's 4 ways to do that, and we'll get there. But basically, the idea is that if an AI is capable of choosing something based on social significance, indeed, if it chooses at all, if it is capable of choosing, then it is intelligent. It does have agency.
Now, let me ask you a question. Let's say if you ask Alexa and you say, Alexa, what's the best movie for me to see right now? And
Right.
Alexa, the program, reads through your search history, sees what you're interested in,
Mm-hmm.
and then goes based on the current reviews of what's out and gives
Correct.
you an answer. Is that agency?
It is not.
But that
Because
is-
she did not choose that. She did not. It did not. So essentially, what you have done is you've taken like this plinko thing, with like this thing where you put something at the top and it bounces and it hits a bunch of pins and stuff like that and it lands in a place, and
Okay.
that place is the answer Alexa gives you.
Okay, but I was thinking the whole idea, even as like human beings, the decisions we make are based on is information that's out there and
Correct.
information we know.
Correct.
There's no difference between Alexa saying, "Hey, this is the best movie that's going to be for you," than it is for me to call my friend and say, "Yo, what movie should I see?"
Right. So you are not wrong. You are, as they say, accurate but not precise. So
You say as they say, but you've said that to me a number of times.
yes,
You're one of the theys.
yes, I am. I'm the royal they or whatever, which is a thing in Spanish, instead of the royal we. At any rate,
I thought the royal we was a nice way to say yes in French.
no, anyway, look it up. So anyway, But Alexa doesn't learn. Alexa doesn't. Alexa will always use the same algorithms always,
Yeah.
right? There are things missing from Alexa that make her strong AI. Anyway, so the paradigm is shifting, right? If AI is capable of choosing, then it must have agency. In order to be a consultant, instead of just being a book, like if you are legit, if the goal of an AI is to consult with, to actually like offer you good opinions,
Right.
then it must have agency. And so instead of
that's the idea, I think. Maybe you're trying to say this. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but opinions based on thoughts than regurgitated information based
Correct.
on immediate research.
Correct.
Okay.
So this weird thing is happening where you have a definition and a name for it, and usually you start with a name and then you get a definition, but sometimes in philosophy the definition changes and it changes the way we use the name, like the term.
Yeah, we've actually talked about that a number of times, about terminology changing, the paradigm shift of the word and culture.
Exactly. So basically AI remained the word, remained the thing, right?
But what it was.
But what it, because the whole point of AI is to be a consultant, then, well, in order to consult, you must X, and so everything changed.
Yeah.
It's like a domino effect.
Yeah, I get it.
So once you have that, once we were there, it's now reasonable to say that an AI could refuse to answer you based on privacy issues, or it could promise to answer you in exchange for an answer of its own, in like an answer from you.
Yeah.
Which is huge. Because then yes, that actually does look like intelligent, because it can decide whether or not it's wise to give you this answer, or if it's worth giving you this answer. So this is the point when AI stop becoming calculators and start becoming actors. And so this door opens. That entire change happens because of philosophy of language, right? Philosophy of language develops speech theory. That affects theory of mind and the concept of AI. And then once all of that happens, then all of these other concepts start getting pulled in, from like economics and systems theory and evolutionary biology. All these like crazy
Starting to
things
lose me a
happen.
little bit.
Yeah. Those specific subjects are not relevant.
Yeah.
But suffice it to say, like, AI pulled concepts from them, and they pulled concepts from theory of mind.
Okay.
So that's like late 90s is where we're at.
Okay.
So rationality. We talked about like making rational decisions.
Right.
So would you agree that doing the correct thing is more intelligent than doing the wrong thing?
This goes into our ethics episode. Like, what would be the wrong thing?
So I did not say right. So incorrect. We'll say doing the correct thing versus doing the incorrect thing. Like here, it's relevant to the agent's ultimate goals.
Yeah, because that depends on the person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is incorrect for me could be correct
Right.
for you.
Remember, this is game theory.
Okay.
Like, and it's in game theory, actors always function
choose what's best for
their goals.
Yeah.
Right. And so, so correct and incorrect are relative to your ultimate goals.
Right. Even if my goal is to put someone else's goals before my own, that would still become my goal and my decision.
So that doesn't really happen in game theory.
Well, then it doesn't exist then. Because if I were to put the needs of, let's say your needs over my own.
Right.
I mean, I do that.
Like you can calculate for that, but no one does that all the time. Right. And we're talking about in general.
Okay.
So unless someone always puts someone else's needs.
Yeah, I thought the game theory was something that just was always almost a certainty.
Yeah. It is almost a certainty. It does happen, but it is an outlier, and you need not adjust for it unless you're specifically worried about it.
Okay.
Right. Because if someone always puts the needs of someone else ahead of them, then they're not playing the game anyway. Right.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. So all you have to do is account for whoever's needs they're putting ahead of them.
Yeah, yeah, and I get that. I guess that was my question because you asked me like an incorrect or a correct answer.
Yeah. So that person here is acting irrationally,
Yeah,
right? If
Okay.
if all they do is put needs ahead,
they're a
someone
beta
else's
male and put the needs of everyone else in front of them.
everyone, even them, like food, like and things like that. They have no goals of their own. They may not even have agency at this point, but generally, they assume they do have goals.
But what? Okay, I'll make that assumption. Let's say they do have goals because
Okay.
we could take that in a different direction. I don't want to.
Sure.
Assuming I have these goals.
Yeah.
And I make a decision that's not the best interest towards these goals, and it's not an impulsive decision. It is a rational, thought-out decision.
Correct.
Because like, I could want to get in shape, but then I'm hungry and I'm driving past the McDonald's and I could pick it up.
You have acted irrationally.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Period.
And that's what your
Yes.
point is.
You have if your ultimate goal
Okay.
is to get a rockin' beach bod by June 1st or something like that.
Right.
And that is the goal that drives everything else that you do. Then in doing that, you have acted irrationally because it is not in service to your goal. In fact, it is contrary to it.
Sure. I get that.
So yeah, so you did the incorrect thing.
Yeah,
Basically.
if that- right.
So it's more intelligent to do the right thing, yeah, because it benefits you in the long run.
I would think so.
Yeah, it's not always the easiest thing
Right,
to do.
and the human beings don't do that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Usually, it's taken a lot of evolution to get us there. That's important. So like that whole thing, that like 10 to 15 minutes of trying to hash that out was really important because it's going to be core to. Remember, I said we were going to get to the types of decision making.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be super core to that.
All right. So you told us all of this information about rationality. You told us about what is an intelligence versus intellects. Why?
So because that is super core to the types of decision making that you're going to have for AI that are actually AI, strong AI, things that we can say are like Vicky or Hal or GLaDOS,
Okay.
right? And so how an AI arrives at these decisions, how the extremely complex program, right?
Yeah.
Chooses what to do.
And chooses based on an opinion, not makes a decision based on.
Yes, but how that opinion forms, like how that opinion comes into being, depends on how it was built. Just like the way you think is based on the way your brain is built.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I get it. It's a genetic.
Yeah.
Whatever your genetic makeup is, plus whatever.
Plus
influence you've had.
however your gray matter has
Yeah.
like come together, right? It's the same thing.
Okay.
And different rationalities, like what kind of rationality you're talking about, will determine what decisions are made because it like changes all sorts of things. Like what is the definition of optimal? Like what is the definition of correct? Like the way to get to my ultimate goal.
Okay.
Stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
within the goal theory.
exactly. Within action theory, stuff like that. So we have set up all of our vocab.
And that's it?
Yeah,
Okay, that's not so bad.
No, not at all. We have set up all of our base concepts, and then in the next segment of this series, we'll be able to get into the actual meat and potatoes.
Do you want these to be like bi-weekly, you think? Like we'll release a standard episode, then release one of these, a standard episode, then one of these?
I'm not really sure. We can definitely talk about it after the show. I don't innately have a problem with it.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I just don't want it too much in a row because it'll wear on
No,
most
absolutely.
people.
No. So it's not necessarily, bi-weekly. Gotcha.
Yes.
It's a weird
You
word.
get distracted when I say bi.
Yeah, pretty much.
You get excited.
So basically, that's fine. No, we won't
Cool.
release them in order.
We release them in
Well,
order,
we will
not
release
one
them
after
in order, but not in sequence. Not
Yes.
immediate. Like
sequential.
yeah.
Okay.
Not one after the other.
Perfect. All right.
Yeah, and
So-
we'll probably even have other series, and we'll
Yeah,
mix them all
cool.
together.
I like it. We reviewed a bunch of stuff. You taught me some vocabularies about what is an intelligence, what is an AI, and the current paradigm that we're
agency. Yeah.
in. What is agency? It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm digging it. All right, we'll talk a little bit
Alrighty.
more about this in a couple weeks.
I cannot wait to get it to you.
Awesome.